There's plenty of places Big could have been. Why the West Coast?
After footage of one of Tupac's killers going viral, many question whether Biggie's killer or anyone involved in the rapper's murder will be arrested. However, the detective who seemingly solved Tupac's murder also seemed to have revealed who killed Biggie. With many disturbing theories about what happened circulating online, fans may finally get the closure they deserve. Biggie's killer revealed.
I mean, I just want to get my hands on everything that's going to help me get paid, really. Whatever it is, whether it's movies, TV.
Energetic, full of hope, and ready for the future was Biggie during this interview dated March 5, 1997. But 4 days later, he would be pronounced dead. Biggie would meet his untimely demise in his green GMC Suburban, while part of an entourage leaving the Vibe magazine industry party at the Peterson Automotive Museum. This was the final blow of the East Coast-West Coast feud. But who is responsible for Biggie's death? Well, this has been a mystery for close to 3 decades now. But in 2017, a video was released showing Biggie's killer. Just seconds after shots rang out, a man can be seen calmly walking away from the car where Biggie's body sat riddled with bullets. Who was this man? There are many theories behind the death of Biggie, but none has been recognized by law. Therefore, the mystery remains unsolved. However, one particular theory seems to hold a lot of water and takes us to 2006, 9 years after Biggie's tragic death, where we meet retired LAPD Greg Kading. Kading was assigned to the cold case that had haunted the music industry for years. Armed with his expertise in gangs, narcotics investigations, and homicides, Kading embarked on a journey that would uncover a web of conspiracy and shocking revelations. Having completed the investigation on Tupac's death, Kading seemed like the right man for the job. His discoveries shed light on a web of conspiracy and implicated Suge Knight and his associates in the murder of Biggie Smalls. Kading's journey into the heart of this investigation would span over 3 years. During this time, he meticulously combed through mountains of evidence, witness testimonies, and conspiracy theories. His mission was to separate fact from fiction and bring justice to the families of Tupac and Biggie. Kading's first breakthrough came in the form of a recorded confession. Through relentless pursuit and strategic interrogation, he managed to obtain a confession from a key figure involved in the murders. This confession shed light on the intricate web of rivalries and vendettas that led to the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. His investigation went deep to uncover the death of Tupac and how Biggie's death was also a retaliation revenge move from the Death Row Records.
The time that Biggie Smalls was killed, Suge Knight was in the county jail. So in order for him to communicate with somebody on the street, he had to go through an intermediary, which was this female who was visiting him in jail.
According to Greg Kading, it was here that the whole murder plot was carefully planned. He revealed that during Biggie's shooting, Suge was in jail, so he sought the services of a man named Wardell Faust, alias Poochie. The death row boss used his girlfriend, Teresa Swan, to get in touch with Poochie and agree on an amount for the hit job.
She said that Suge told her, I want you to get a hold of Poochie, figure out what type of money it's gonna cost, and tell him that this is what I want done. So there's a series of meetings. She goes and meets with Poochie. They agree on an amount. Suge makes the arrangement for that money to get transferred. She pays Poochie, and he goes and sets himself up at the Peterson Auto Museum and shoots and kills Biggie.
Greg Kading had finally solved the murder in 3 years by way of a recorded confession and an understanding of the basic street code that continues to nonsensically send black men to their graves. But this did not come on a silver spoon. Witnesses were afraid to come forward, fearing retaliation from the powerful forces at play. The culture of silence that permeated the streets made it difficult to piece up the case.
They were visited at their prisons, 1,000 miles apart, and told not to come and testify in the Board of Rights hearing that I was involved with. And they were told that if they did testify, that friends of Perez who were in prison would have them killed for testifying, for snitching.
This was not his only challenge. The investigation also faced hurdles within the American judicial system. Making an arrest proved to be a complex task, as the evidence needed to meet the high burden of proof required for a conviction. Kading and his team had to navigate the intricacies of the legal system, ensuring that every piece of evidence was meticulously gathered and analyzed. However, as the investigation progressed, Kading found himself caught in the crossfire of powerful figures within the music industry and the LAPD. At one point, he was even taken off the case. I remember sitting in my lieutenant's office in 2009, and he said, "Greg, we're going to put you on the bench for a minute." I understood exactly what that meant, he revealed in an interview. The LAPD weren't going to pursue the case anymore. They knew that we had solved it. They were out from underneath this massive lawsuit, and they were not going to waste any more time and energy on it. Despite these challenges, Kading remained steadfast in his pursuit of justice. He understood the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His dedication to the case was not only evident in his tireless efforts, but also in his willingness to collaborate with others who shared his passion for justice. Kading findings uncovered corrupt LAPD officers that were involved in the murder and cover-up of Biggie's death for 9 years. Many believe that the LAPD was involved in a cover-up to protect those responsible for the murder of the iconic rapper. As the investigation unfolded, troubling inconsistencies and questionable actions by the LAPD came to light, fueling the belief that a cover-up was underway. One of the key elements of the alleged cover-up was the mishandling of crucial evidence. It was revealed that the LAPD failed to properly secure the crime scene, allowing potential evidence to be tampered with or lost. This raised serious doubts about the integrity of the investigation from the very beginning. Furthermore, witnesses who came forward with valuable information were met with intimidation and threats, making them not want to cooperate. This pattern of witness intimidation only deepened suspicions of a cover-up orchestrated by the LAPD. Another troubling aspect of the case was the lack of progress in identifying and apprehending the perpetrators. Despite the high-profile nature of the crime and the extensive resources available to the LAPD, the investigation seemed to hit a wall. This lack of progress raised questions about the commitment and competence of the police force. As the years went by, additional evidence emerged that pointed towards LAPD's involvement in the cover-up. Whistleblowers within the department came forward, alleging that certain officers had ties to the criminal underworld and were protecting those responsible for Biggie's murder. These allegations gained further credibility when it was revealed that a former LAPD detective, Russell Poole, who had been actively investigating the case and had uncovered evidence implicating fellow officers. Poole's findings suggested a web of corruption and conspiracy within the LAPD, reaching the highest levels of authority, incriminating officers David Mack and Rafael Perez in the murder and cover-up. In the wake of a new documentary, Last Man Standing, a stream of witnesses came forward, further cementing the engagement of police David Mack and Perez.
Yes, Officer Perez, he was friends with Suge. I've seen him up there several times, and he was friends with Suge. I seen him in uniform and out of uniform. And when he out of uniform, he try to look like he cool and shit. He wear little accents of red, you know, like try to fit in and shit. I'm like, oh, that's the police dude.
C-Style, a Death Row Records producer and Crips gang bodyguard, also further cements this. He said, "I saw David Mack. I hung around with Rafael Perez. They were not different from us, except they had badges. We didn't." It was clear that the two had an appetite to work with drug dealers. Perez was already notorious for his involvement in the Rampart corruption scandal, selling drugs from police evidence lockers and framing suspects. Even though the LAPD agreed that the mentioned officers were part of the security detail to Death Row Records, they still denied their involvement with Biggie's murder, despite the mounting evidence against them.
We know that David Mack and Rafael Perez both work security in this rap culture as it relates to some of these artists. But we have had
the Death
Row Records, but we have no information, nor has any information come forward that would cause us to believe that either one of them are suspects.
They maintained that they were committed to solving the case and bringing justice to Biggie Smalls and his family. However, the public's trust in the LAPD had been severely eroded, and doubts about their integrity persisted. Another theory behind Biggie's murder lies in the rivalry between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records. Their bitter feud would not only shape the landscape of the music industry, but also lead to the tragic deaths of two iconic rappers, Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. Sean Combs, the charismatic founder of Bad Boy Records, had risen to prominence with his unique blend of catchy beats and infectious lyrics. His label became a powerhouse in the industry, launching the careers of numerous artists, one of them being Biggie Smalls, while Suge Knight was a towering figure with a reputation for intimidation. He had built an empire with Death Row Records and his roster of talented artists, including the enigmatic Tupac Shakur. But beneath the glitz and glamour of the music industry, a dangerous undercurrent of violence lurked. The conflict between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records quickly escalated, partly due to the bitter East Coast-West Coast rivalry. The first draw happened during the elevator of Biggie Smalls' studio after Tupac and his entourage were mugged as they went in to see Biggie. Tupac translated this as an attack, while Biggie maintained that he had no reason to attack him.
Now, he said in one of his songs, and like I said, we're not going to go on and on about this, but he said in one of his songs, he knows you sent somebody to shoot him that first time. Is that true or false?
Why? No, it's false. Why would I do that?
These claims would fall on deaf ears, and the once good friends became foes. The first casualty in this deadly rivalry was Tupac Shakur. On the night of September 7, 1996, after attending the Mike Tyson versus Bruce Seldon boxing match in Las Vegas, Tupac was gunned down in a drive-by shooting. Death Row Records had been robbed off their face and their money-making protege, and it was time for revenge. While life continued for the rest of the world, Death Row Records and Bad Boy Records were living on the edge. In an interview after the passing of Tupac, Biggie reveals that he had to get bodyguards. Sadly, just 6 months later, on March 9, 1997, the world would be once again rocked by tragedy. Biggie was shot and killed in Los Angeles in a revenge mission. Another theory behind Biggie Smalls' murder lies with the one person he entrusted his life with, Sean Combs, popularly known as Puffy, or P. Diddy. Some people believe that Puffy set up Biggie for his death after he had seen how successful Tupac's body of work was posthumously.
Why in the hell you would put your man in a situation by sending him to Cali to work on your album when you know not his Nimitz, but your Nimitz was just murdered by niggas that you was running with? Why would you do that?
This seemed like foul play, especially because they had canceled a trip to Europe. Gene Deal, who was part of Puff's security detail in the 90s, opened up about the night Biggie was killed in interviews, saying that there was intel that there would be a shootout that day, and that even his boss Puffy knew about it and dismissed the claims. Before we left Andre Harrell's house, Puff told me I didn't have to go. Now, I went because I knew that somebody was going to die that night. Somebody was going to get shot. I did everything in my power to stop it from being Puff. And it wasn't Puff. Sounds far-reaching, right? Not really, especially if you put into consideration the body of work Biggie had. Bad Boy Records stood a chance to be a huge success after his demise. True to plan, in the months following Biggie's murder, his album sales skyrocketed. Fans flocked to record stores, eager to own a piece of his legacy. His second studio album, Life After Death, released just weeks after his death, became an instant classic. It was a double-disc masterpiece that showcased Biggie's lyrical prowess and storytelling abilities. The album featured hit singles like Hypnotize and Mo Money Mo Problems, which dominated the airwaves and solidified Biggie's status as a rap icon. Now we have the suspects, motive, and even theories behind his death. But to really understand just how big Biggie was, by the time of his death, we have to go to the beginning. East Coast, West Coast. Christopher Wallace, known the world as Biggie Smalls or Notorious Big, was born on May 21st, 1971 in the gritty streets of Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. His early life was marked by the harsh realities of poverty, crime, and violence that plagued his neighborhood. Biggie's dad was largely absent from his life as he left the family when Biggie was only 2 years old, so it was just Christopher and his mother, Valletta Wallace, who worked as a preschool teacher, with his father absent and no male authority in his life. Young Biggie found himself involved in the dangerous world of drug dealing. According to the rapper in interviews later in life, he began dealing drugs at about age 12. His mother, often at work, first learned of this during his adulthood. Growing up in a single-parent household, Biggie faced numerous challenges from an early age, even however he found solace in music. He was drawn to the vibrant sounds of hip-hop that echoed through the streets of Brooklyn. He began honing his skills as a rapper, using his words to express the realities of his environment. He would often freestyle with his friends as well as entertain people on the streets of Brooklyn. Before adopting the name that is now known worldwide, he first adopted the stage name MCC West. However, as he honed his skills, his fan base also increased, but that would come at a screeching halt in 1989. At the age of 17, having worked the corner for a while, Biggie dropped out of high school and became more involved in crime. This was short-lived, as he was arrested for possession of weapons in Brooklyn, earning him 5 years probation. The following year, he was arrested on a violation of his probation, earning him 9 more months behind bars in North Carolina. That was not all. He later came into contact with the law for dealing crack cocaine. This seemed to be the life he had set himself out for, but music was still calling. Soon as he stepped out of jail, he continued to write lyrics and hone his craft, using his experiences on the streets as inspiration for his gritty and authentic storytelling. Biggie's talent quickly became evident, and he started gaining recognition within his community. His unique style blended gritty street tales with smooth flows and infectious hooks, captivating anyone who listened. He even rebranded, and during this time he adopted the stage name Biggie Smalls, inspired by a character from the 1975 film Let's Do It Again. He went on to make a demo tape, Microphone Murderer, which caught the attention of local DJ Mr. C, who recognized his raw talent and introduced him to the world of hip-hop. DJ Mr. C promoted the tape, which was later heard by the Source Rap magazine's editor in 1992. This was the beginning of Biggie's rise in the hip-hop scene. The Source column, Unsigned Hype, dedicated to airing promising rappers, even featured Biggie, which gave him even more exposure as it led to a meeting that would change the rapper's life forever. The tape's exposure meant that it was only a matter of time until it found its way into the hands of music executives, and true to that, it landed into the hands of one Sean Love Combs, alias Puff Daddy, who would become a pivotal figure in Biggie Small's career. Sean Puff Daddy Combs was a rising star in the music industry working at Uptown Records. Puff was in charge of scouting and overseeing the artistic development of recording artists in the artist and repertoire division. Upon hearing the demo tape, seeing the raw talent and potential in Biggie, Puff didn't waste any time. He arranged to meet Biggie, who ended up signing for Uptown Records in 1992. 1 year after Biggie's signing, Uptown fired Puff, who a week later launched Bad Boy Records, which soon also became Biggie's new home. This is when Biggie's dreams were about to become a reality. With Puff Daddy's guidance and production skills, Biggie's career skyrocketed, propelling him from the streets of Brooklyn to the forefront of the rap industry. In 1994, Biggie released his debut album, Ready to Die, under the guidance of Sean Puff Daddy Combs and his record label, Bad Boy Records. The album was an instant success, showcasing Biggie's lyrical prowess and storytelling abilities. Tracks like Juicy and Big Papa became anthems, resonating with listeners from all walks of life. Biggie's ability to blend gritty street tales with infectious hooks and smooth flows set him apart from his peers, solidifying his place as a rap superstar. He went on to win Soul Train Awards, establishing himself as the creme de la creme of the industry. Biggie had a special way to connect to his audience. His lyrics often depicted the harsh realities of street life, including violence and drugs. Critics accused him of glorifying a dangerous lifestyle, while others praised his authenticity and ability to shed light on the struggles of marginalized communities. But that was not all. His impact extended beyond the music, as he popularized the flashy and extravagant lifestyle that became synonymous with the rap industry. His larger-than-life persona and unique fashion sense, Biggie became a trendsetter, influencing the style and image of rappers that followed in his footsteps. His signature style, which often included designer suits, fedoras, and gold chains, became iconic. He effortlessly blended streetwear with high fashion, setting trends and inspiring a generation of artists and fans alike. Biggie Small's influence extended beyond the East Coast rap scene. His collaborations with other rap legends showcased his versatility and solidified his status as a sought-after collaborator. His distinct voice and delivery became instantly recognizable, and his influence can still be heard in the music of today's artists. But as Biggie's star continued to rise, so did the challenges he faced. The rap industry was a battlefield, rife with rivalries and feuds. Biggie found himself caught in the middle of a deadly East Coast-West Coast rivalry that would ultimately have devastating consequences, including the death of his friend and ultimately his own. So how did Tupac and Biggie encounter each other? In the early days of their careers, Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls shared a genuine friendship and a deep respect for each other's talent. Tupac, born and raised in New York City, burst onto the music scene in 1991 with his debut album. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, Biggie Smalls was making equal waves in Brooklyn. As their popularity grew, Tupac and Biggie found themselves drawn to each other's music and style. They saw in each other a kindred spirit, someone who understood the struggles and aspirations of being a young artist in the rap game. Their friendship blossomed, and they often discussed their dreams of collaborating on a project together. What made their bond even stronger was the mutual respect they had for each other's craft. Tupac admired Biggie's storytelling ability and his ability to paint vivid pictures with his lyrics. Biggie, in turn, recognized Tupac's raw energy and his ability to connect with audiences on a deeply emotional level. Their friendship was not just limited to music. Tupac and Biggie would often hang out together, sharing laughs and stories about their lives. They were like brothers, supporting each other through the ups and downs of their respective careers. Biggie even wanted Tupac to be his manager. The turning point in Tupac and Biggie's friendship came in 1994, when Tupac was shot multiple times in a recording studio in New York City. This shocking incident left Tupac wounded and filled with suspicion, as he believed that Biggie had played a role in the attack. The trust between the two friends was shattered, and their relationship took a dark and bitter turn. Tupac's belief that Biggie was involved in the shooting stemmed from a combination of factors, including the ongoing East Coast-West Coast rivalry and the rumors circulating within the music industry. The tension between the two rap scenes had been escalating, with Tupac aligning himself with the West Coast and Biggie representing the East Coast. The shooting intensified the animosity between Tupac and Biggie, leading to a series of diss tracks and public feuds. Tupac released the infamous song Hit 'Em Up, where he directly called out Biggie and his associates, accusing them of betrayal and deceit. The lyrics were filled with anger and resentment, reflecting the deep wounds that had been inflicted on their friendship. The once promising bond between Tupac and Biggie had been shattered, replaced by a bitter rivalry fueled by suspicion and betrayal. The music industry and fans alike were captivated by the drama unfolding between these two influential artists. The fallout from the shooting would have far-reaching consequences, forever altering the course of their lives and the history of hip-hop. The rivalry between the East Coast and West Coast rap scenes reached new heights when Tupac Shakur made a pivotal decision to join Death Row Records. After the shooting incident that strained his friendship with Biggie, Tupac sought solace and support on the West Coast, aligning himself with Death Row, a prominent record label based in Los Angeles. Tupac's affiliation with Death Row Records intensified the animosity between the East Coast and West Coast factions. Death Row, led by CEO Suge Knight, was known for its association with gang culture and its aggressive approach to the music industry. This move solidified Tupac's allegiance to the West Coast and further fueled the flames of the ongoing feud. With Death Row behind him, Tupac released a string of powerful and controversial tracks that took aim at his East Coast rivals, including Biggie and his associates. The lyrics were filled with venom and fueled the fire of the already heated rivalry. The music industry and fans were captivated by the escalating drama as the East Coast-West Coast feud became a central focus of the hip-hop world. Tupac's decision to join Death Row Records not only deepened the divide between him and Biggie, but also symbolized the larger divide between the two coasts. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry had become a cultural phenomenon, with fans and media eagerly following every twist and turn. The animosity between Tupac and Biggie continued to grow, with each side trading insults and threats through their music. The tension was palpable, and the stakes were higher than ever before. The music industry held its breath, waiting to see how this bitter feud would ultimately unfold. After the tragic passing of Tupac Shakur in September 1996, Biggie Smalls found himself grappling with a profound loss. The death of his former friend and once promising collaborator shook him to the core. In the wake of this devastating event, Biggie expressed a sincere desire to end the feud that had consumed their relationship in the hip-hop world. Realizing the futility and tragedy of the ongoing East Coast-West Coast rivalry, Biggie publicly spoke out about his willingness to move past the animosity. He recognized the senselessness of the feud, understanding that it had taken a toll on both himself and the entire hip-hop community. In interviews and through his music, Biggie conveyed a message of unity and reconciliation. He expressed remorse for the escalating tensions and the role he may have played in perpetuating the rivalry. Biggie's heartfelt words resonated with many, as fans and industry insiders alike hoped for an end to the senseless violence that had claimed the lives of Tupac and others. Unfortunately, Biggie's efforts to mend the broken bonds were cut short. Just 6 months after Tupac's death, Biggie followed the same route in March 1997. The loss of both Tupac and Biggie left a void in the music industry and a lingering question of what could have been if the feud had been resolved. The murders of Tupac and Biggie remain unsolved, leaving a haunting legacy and a reminder of the devastating consequences of a friendship turned sour. Their death served as a wake-up call for the hip-hop community, prompting reflection and a renewed commitment to unity and peace. For now, we leave to busk in their glory through their songs. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.